yeah, you gotta earn your stripes, cut your teeth, so to speak. Like you do have to like work your way up. Like it doesn't get handed to you.
You love social media, but this is where we disagree a lot.
Yeah.
Like put yourself out there and figure out what you're good at and really like give it your all. Like we got this one life. Get after it. Like fucking don't be stuck in a shit kicker job that you don't like.
So going back to like brands, if there was someone out there that's starting out that wants to work with big brands, what would be your suggestion for someone to land that first brand?
Guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We're joined by Chris Sulfa.
Are we legit live now?
Yeah.
Oh, we've
We
been
are legit
live
bro.
for like the
right.
whole time.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
we're
right.
live
Yeah.
now,
We just
bro.
start wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
We just cut it all up and try and make
I'm
sense
used
of
to
it
like
later.
we're clapped in, we're in kind of thing.
That was
That
it,
was
bro.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
it.
it. Cool.
We're excited to have you on.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
man.
excited
The
to be
guests
here.
are starting to pile up.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
getting there. I guess the focus is going to be as a freelance creative.
Yeah.
How you started, because you've been doing this for a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Yeah. How many years now?
I'd say like 7+ years.
Yep.
And it wasn't actually intentional to
Yeah?
get into design to begin with, actually.
What was plan A?
I don't know. At the time, I don't know. I was actually,
What about before you started
Before
design? What were you
design?
doing?
I was working for a place called Australian Business Chamber.
Wow.
And I was actually like filing shit
Yeah.
into
Wow.
cabinets. And I fucking hated my job.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was in like I was stuck and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do that. And then I ended up being a chef for a period of time.
Yep.
And I was just kind of like just doing these jobs, but at the same time I knew I wanted to do something creative. And I inherited a screen printing carousel from my dad.
Wow.
And my dad's actually a graphic designer. He's got an interesting career too. Like he designed the Instagram logo like originally.
Damn.
Funny story, he actually didn't get any royalties for that because they cut the end of the M or something, or the I.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have to pay royalties for using his font.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
The Instagram font.
Yeah, the Instagram font.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shit.
Wow.
Qantas.
Yeah.
He designed the 80s version of the logo.
Yeah.
With the kangaroo and shit. Like I didn't realize, but I kind of ended up following in his footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
And it started because I had this screen printing carousel that I got inherited from him, and I wanted to learn how to make t-shirts.
Yep.
And I kind of got into streetwear, and I like love hip hop, and then I kind of like started to get into like this self-taught, like jumping online. How do I create logos so that I can print t-shirts?
Sick.
Kind of like figured it out as I went. And then I think one thing led to another. I'm like, what do I want to do career-wise? I want to do something creative. Might get into tattoos. Got into that industry for a little while. Realized it was a bit of a tricky industry to crack.
Yeah.
And then you got to hang out with bikies a lot. So I was like, I don't want to be around that. There's not really room
These
for
aren't my
growth
people.
here. Exactly. And so I learned on the job though, like how to design tattoos, because I had to learn graphic design to design tattoos, like to some degree. But it all kind of just snowballed, and it was always like this like trajectory of like learning on the go.
Yeah.
Of like this is where I want to be creatively, and how do I figure that out? And yeah, I mean I've had a pretty awesome career so far.
At what point, like when you were doing the filing and the share, what point did you decide I'm going to take this on as a career? Because I
Yeah.
think at the start it's usually just trying to figure out what you like.
Yeah, a few things actually. At the time, I was actually listening to a lot of podcasts. Kind of like got into Joe Rogan podcasts, personal development podcasts, and I guess like having all those influences, like hearing all these different points of views, how you could make a living doing something you're passionate about. All the seeds kind of got planted there, and then that's kind of how I figured it out. And I think when it comes to like what my my career path has been and like the industry that I've been in, it's mostly what I'm passionate about.
Yep.
So it's like fitness, health and well-being, and like now I've got like this long track record of like brands I've worked with that were always focused in that industry. So I think it's like for me, and I would say this to like young creatives out there, is figuring out your niche is really important. Like figuring out what you actually like, what you're passionate about, and then sort of like try and tailor your work to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
How did you get like your first, when you started graphic design, when did you start, like when was your first job? Like the first time you got paid
Yeah.
and thought, fuck, I can do this.
Yeah. My first legit job, I worked for a CrossFit and MMA gym
Yep.
in Rockdale. Old friend and mentor of mine. I actually met him through the spoken word community. I used to do like poetry, spoken word,
I
all
love
that kind of stuff.
shit. Have
That's-
you seen that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
bro.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was always influenced by like J. Cole and hip hop and rap and Kendrick and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I did that for years, and I was actually
Wow.
quite involved in the
In the
Bankstown
scene.
Poetry Slam community.
No
So out of
way.
Bankstown, they got a really thriving community out that way for it. And I was selling my T-shirts there, and my T-shirts were all like poetry and hip hop related.
That's cool.
I got like this old school like 2-pack T-shirt that I designed, and
Yep.
from there I met a mentor who was like funny. It felt like it was like a mid-30s version of me when I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
Like he
right.
was like into poetry, into like activism, into health and fitness, and he owned this gym. And then he's like, come out to my gym, I got some work for you. And I was like helping him out with T-shirt designs, and then I was helping out with social media. And eventually I moved on from there, and I got a job working for Lonsdale London. So that's like
That's pretty
Wow.
good.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like they used to have stores all around Sydney, like spread out across like Western Sydney. And I worked in a team there.
Did they reach out to you?
No, I reached out to them. So that was my proper like for after working at that gym, my first like career, like actual career working for a company, learning the ins and outs of within a company. And I was a graphic designer there, and then I worked in a team of like 6 other designers spread across different departments. So like menswear, women's wear, kids wear, social media, like we all worked together, and I was the graphic designer for that. And I guess while I was on the job, I was just learning on the job, like whether it's going to photo shoots, whether it was preparing designs for clothing or storefront signage, like so much of it was just like figuring it out on the go, on the job.
It's awesome.
YouTubing shit,
Yep.
Skillshare, like it just soaking in as much as possible. And I think it kind of started like circling back to like when I was working at that shit kicker job that I hated, but I was listening to podcasts constantly and learning. And then that attitude kind of applied to like being in a company.
Yep.
Fast forward from there, Lonsdale London, actually got made redundant there. The company folded and
How long
like
were you there
decided
for?
to shut down Lonsdale stores.
Yeah.
But they opened up this hat store called Stateside Sports. You
I
guys
know
ever
that
seen
store.
that?
Oh, I buy my hats from there.
I designed I designed the logo.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I get half my hats from there.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a deal,
Yeah.
it gets me every time.
Yeah.
It gets me every time.
So that company, I think they closed down Lonsdale London, and then the same stores that were previously Lonsdale London, they filled it with Stateside Sports, and I knew the owners, and they asked me to design the logo for that. Anyways, that's like one point in my career history, and then I got made redundant. I ended up falling back into like shit. I get a job fast, and I ended up being what do you call it? Like I was working in like being a chef again, and like sort of like doing what do you call it? Like catering. That's what I was doing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like early hours, getting up at 5 a.m. I hated it, but at the same time, I was like applying for every job,
Yeah.
design wise. I was like, I got to get back in the industry, and like, luckily, I applied for a job called Dash Digital Media. Had no idea what it was. It was extremely vague, and then it happened to be EHP Labs.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
And I went
that's
through
sick.
multiple rounds with them, interviews and weird design tests that they made me do. And it ended up being like one of the most like important career jumps that I'd ever had working for a company like that. They're global. They have this huge product line. And I got in at a really interesting time where they had like a really small team. They were still growing it. I got involved in so many different projects there. Rebranding.
Do you know what? Did they ever tell you what it was about your resume or your experience before that made them interested in you?
I think it was probably
Lonsdale.
Lonsdale, the combination of like working in the fitness industry prior to that, and I guess it was also the in-person skills. Like we got along. Like I vibed with the owner. We had really great chats, and it wasn't really just all about my design abilities. It was also that I was passionate about this industry, and I could share that and I could express that to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Like you got to like the people that you work with. So
For sure.
yeah,
For sure.
usually that's what interviews are, right? They've seen your resume, they've seen your body of work or your portfolio. They just need to meet you to make sure that you're like not a weirdo or you're, you know, you
Especially
get on
for what we do. Like your
Yeah.
work's not hard to find. You can just go on someone's
Instagram
or
or whatever.
You know
Yes.
their work before they even come in.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So an interview would basically just be like, what's this guy's energy like?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And you just said like you vibed with the owner, so it was
That's
like
it.
yeah, that's all
Yeah.
you needed. That
Yeah.
was your in.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, if I would like to speak to younger audience of like creatives out there, like it's about making yourself part of the conversation. Like even before this podcast, I was talking about like sometimes you just need to reach out and say, hey, I've got these skills. Like I can't go into too much detail, but like, you know, working with a gym chain that's expanding across like Sydney, and I work with them in a different way, but I reached out and I was like, you know what? I actually have these skills, and here's all the previous brands I've worked with that I feel like might work really well with you guys. And then a month later they hit me up and now they're giving me all this work. And it's like, you got to just start the conversation. Like on one hand, like figure out what your niche is and what industry you want to be in, but reach out to those people and like get amongst those people and start the conversation with them.
And it's having the confidence to do that though.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are too scared. They're like, oh, there's no way this brand would work with me. They're like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And they don't even try to reach out or put out their
Self-doubt, man,
interest.
is like a silent killer for people, man.
Yeah.
Like it can stop you in your tracks. Like
Yeah.
you got to have some self-belief. And like on one hand, you can prove that through your skills and your abilities and harnessing your skills. On the other hand, you've got to actually be able to articulate to people like, I can do this. I can not only can I show you this, but I believe I can do this kind of thing. Not in those exact words, but obviously like, you know, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Nobody knows if they don't know that
Yeah.
you do this.
I think a lot of like creatives especially suffer from imposter syndrome, which we've had a few guests on that have articulated that to us. But it's as you say, it's a lot of self-doubt. People don't think that their work is good enough. But it sounds like most of your jobs that you've gotten, you've taken the proactive approach and you've contacted these companies and you've been like, hey, I believe in my work, I believe in my product, I believe that I would work really well with you guys. And it's actually really refreshing to hear, because I know a lot of people that don't do that and they just get hit up by random brands that they're not really aligned with, and they're like, hey, can you shoot with us, or hey, can you design this with us? And they don't really like doing it because it's not, you know, stuff that's aligned with their beliefs or whatever. They don't actually like this company, they're just doing it for the work. But it sounds like you went out and approached companies that you already, you know, you're already doing everything that they're doing, like, you know, EHP Labs or Lonsdale London, that sort of thing, or, you know, the gym chain, that sort of thing. So it's really refreshing to hear.
Yeah, thanks. And for sure, like it is that. Sometimes it's like, don't give up your day job. Like sometimes like if you can't just crack into the industry, get a job and get some experience and some skills first. But you can save a lot of headache if you figure out your niche at the beginning. Like I'm just lucky that I was passionate about these things, and then it kind of just became like the merger of what I love to do, and it became my career. Yeah.
But you also working at Lonsdale, I think, is a really good move. Not just working at Lonsdale, but getting a job. A lot of people try and do, I did, freelance, and you try and do everything on your own. You're going to make so many mistakes, and it takes you so long to learn all this shit.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get a job within a team, you're learning from, how many designers were you working with? You said there were six other
I had
people.
like 6 people who had 20 years of career experience.
Yeah, right.
I was like
you're getting paid
they were
to learn.
my mentors. Exactly. And like being a freelancer is being an entrepreneur. You're being a sole trader, a business person, right? When you work for a company, you can be what's called an intrapreneur, where you can still have the ideas and the attitude of an entrepreneur and a freelancer, but you get paid and you're on the clock and you're getting experience all at once.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable. I'm very lucky and grateful for all the opportunities I've had, because each company that I work for has allowed me to explore so many different things I wouldn't have been able to do as a freelancer.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
wouldn't have been able to get those opportunities if it wasn't for being actually in the door, on the clock, at the job. And there's no harm in that. There's no shame in like getting a job where you don't really align with all of it,
Yeah.
but you get to learn on the job. And then you can polish up your portfolio and send it to another job later that actually is more aligned with your values.
Yeah,
True,
definitely.
you're building up skills. You're building up skills. You're being forced to do all these things that you wouldn't have done by yourself. So you build up your skill portfolio, and then once you've built that up, and you're getting paid for it at the same time. You know what I mean? Imagine you're doing a course, you're paying for it, you're not getting any income.
Yeah, that's
and you're
tough.
learning. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I think it's a good
learning
one.
on the job is, I think, is way
A lot
way
of
more
people
valuable.
shy away from it. Like
Yeah.
they're just like, I want to work my own schedule and I want to live the dream from day one. And they've got no work and they're trying to figure all this shit out.
Yeah.
When I think that's a better route.
Yeah, you
But
gotta
that's just me.
earn your stripes, cut your teeth, so to speak. Like you do have to like work your way up. Like it doesn't get handed to you.
Yeah.
Like we live in this day and age where it's like everything is like instant gratification and validation
Definitely.
on social media.
Yep.
But shit, a lot of work needs to be done first behind the scenes to actually get that recognition. And you guys would know that.
Yep.
Like the hours dedicated to your craft, the 10,000 hour rule, right? Like
Yeah.
you got to put in the effort to get to a level of mastery first to be able to say, I'm good. I know what I'm capable of. Self-belief is like is an ongoing thing. It's work. Yeah,
But the more you prove it, the more self-belief you have.
for sure.
When you know that the guys at Lonsdale took you on, then the guys at Stateside took you, like the more and more brands you work with, all these people are accepting you. They all like your work. Like
It's a
that
feedback
builds
loop,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it builds your confidence.
Yeah.
And then it's like, man, I've worked with all these people. You go to that next brand,
Yes.
going like, this is a piece of cake. Look
100%.
at what I've done.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of this quote. I've always loved this quote. This guy called Joseph Campbell. He says, "Follow your bliss, and the universe opens doors where there's walls." And it's like, if you find out what you're passionate about and you follow that, things just naturally kind of occur. Like you just get these opportunities, but you got to figure out yourself first and figure out what you want to do. And one thing that's helped me, I've been reflecting on this a lot, thinking about the questions, is there's this thing you were in Japan recently, right? So ikigai, you ever heard of that before? So there's like a diagram you can see online where it's like, what do you love? Like what lights you up? What are you passionate about? What industry is it? What are your skills? What are you good at? And then what can you get paid for? And like in the middle of all those three things, like you can't go wrong. Like that's your reason for being, man. Like that's your purpose. I think it's important to figure out that as you age and as a creative, like what's your thing? What's your niche? What's your skill set?
And it's hard to know straight away. A lot of the times it's not, like you just have to try different things to figure out what gives you that feeling.
For sure, man.
Like you tried being a chef.
I hated it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have known unless you tried.
Exactly, man. But I also like got to learn skills from that. Like being a chef, it's all about these ingredients you put together to create a recipe or create a menu, like a meal. Kind of same rules apply as a graphic designer. If you can like think about putting your chef hat on and what do I need to know in Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign and how do I package that together to complete a product.
Yep.
Same with like, photography. Like what else can you add to photography? How can you get better at editing skills, like video editing, motion graphics? So much of this shit I just taught myself. Like if I can apply what I learnt and how I approached learning to design, I can do that with everything else.
True.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Have you've been trying Photoshop, but even InDesign, man, it is hard.
Yeah, it's tough.
That was
It's
a learning curve
confusing.
for me too,
Yeah,
man. I had to
big
make a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
And I luckily got to make those mistakes while I worked
Yes.
at a job.
Right? And
Yeah.
you're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true.
It's definitely the way to go, I think.
Yeah.
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 And
If you can.
especially with that, like I look at those programs, I'm like, this is just going to take time. And I'm watching tutorials and I'm watching the guy giving the tutorial and he's not even thinking, man. He's just like, yeah, you put this here, another layer here. And I'm like, bro, slow down.
Yeah.
Experience.
And you
yeah.
want, it's just experience. And I'm like, I want to reach that level.
Yeah.
Where you
And,
just,
yeah. And dude, and the pressure's on when you're on the job too.
True.
Like
Yeah.
you gotta fucking make this because this has to go into market and you got a deadline. Well then shit, you gotta jump on YouTube fast and figure it out. Like
It's like that reel I've been seeing lately where they put in their headphones. Oh, do you mind if I listen to music while I work? It just helps me concentrate. And they're like, yeah. This is how you turn the camera on. This is how you adjust the shutter speed. Or
Yeah.
This is how you get this info. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's
yeah.
do the mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. But learning on the job, especially YouTube as a tool, I think even the last like 7 years has helped so many different creatives. Like YouTube University, I think is way. I guess it's different. Way, in my opinion, it's way better than normal university. You're using that as more like a networking thing, whereas YouTube will teach you the actual skills that you want to learn. And even though you won't get a degree at the end of it, you'll probably have a better job and no debt. So
And skills
And
that,
heaps of
that
skills,
are
yeah.
applicable in that moment.
to your passion, yeah.
Yeah. Like I have no shame in it, man. There's been times where I'm like, fuck, I forgot how to do that.
Yeah.
After Effects.
Well, if you
Yeah,
stop
Let me
doing
just watch
it for
a
a while,
YouTube
yeah,
short
exactly.
Yeah,
and I
man.
figured it out in a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
bro. There's After Effects tutorials that I've got saved in my library. I've
Yeah.
gone back to them like 20 times.
Yeah.
The same video.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
like, what is it,
yeah.
man? This is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I've done this 100 times, but I
Yep.
forgot. So I'm just going to watch that video again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube's so
It's
good.
valuable, man. Like just outsource
Yep.
your thinking
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
it's
YouTube.
there. Yeah.
YouTube's great, but also just like volume of work. I've always thought if I make 10,000 videos, if I learn just the smallest little thing with each video,
Yeah.
you're going to get so much better when you're 1,000 videos deep,
For sure.
right?
man.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how, like, you're going to have to watch YouTube videos, but you're not going to get better until you do those 1,000 videos. Because with each one, you learn that little skill, that how to mask,
Yeah.
how to fucking color grade.
Was there a particular channel or anything that you watched, or was it just general creators that?
General creators, like for certain like color grading stuff like that, there are obviously like certain creators out there that I resonate with. But a lot of the time it was just like fill in the blank kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like shit, I'm working on something. How do I do that? Okay.
Google search,
YouTube. Yeah, Google
yeah.
search. Exactly. Yeah. Like, cause somebody out there has
Done it before, and
Yeah.
probably better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So learn from the best.
Yeah. Fast track your learning.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to like brands, if there was someone out there that's starting out that wants to work with big brands, what would be your suggestion for someone to land that first brand?
Definitely build up your portfolio. Like kind of like what I touched on before, like figure out your niche, but also show results. Show that you've got a track record of being able to produce results.
Yeah, cool. So when it comes to that, how do you get graphic design,
Yeah.
especially, is very subjective. How do you know that you've done something good?
Yeah. That's an interesting one. I'm going to try and answer this like in two ways. So like,
Because it's very subjective. You could make something, I could love it, and Quinn could hate it
yes.
easily because it's just taste, right?
Yes.
A lot of it is very subjective.
It is. Yeah. So when I was working for HP Labs, I had to go through a round of like interviewing young designers who were like fresh out of uni, and each of them had very different portfolios, but their personalities like were very like you could see it in their work. And I think like identifying, you got to wear multiple hats. Like when you think about like how your work's going to apply in the industry, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, use this example, like it doesn't have to be fitness focus related per se, but you, as you said, like design's subjective and there are all these different possible interpretations. But if you can like sort of read between the lines, like what's going to work, would this fit this market? Would this fit this kind of audience, this kind of demographic? I think it's important to be able to identify that, not just in others, like say you're in a management role and you got to hire somebody, but also in your own work, like wear the hats and think about how it applies to a certain audience. I don't always hit the mark with with some of my clients that I've worked with. Like sometimes you'll work with somebody and my design skills and what I create is different to like what kind of audience they've got.
Yeah.
Like I might not be the right fit for like a yoga instructor who wants branding. But in saying that, I think it's so important to get feedback from others as well.
Yeah.
Like
constructive criticism.
yeah, constructive criticism and like not taking it too personally. Like I think especially like working in the industry, fortunately, I get to work in teams and I get to work with other people's opinions. And it's like, maybe, yeah, I should listen to what this marketing manager has to say or this social media content person has to say because they have an eye for that. And, you know, you just don't need to get too personal about your work.
Ego is the
exactly,
enemy. Like
exactly.
leave the ego at the door.
Yeah, leave your ego at the door and let other people come in. Obviously, there's a point where it's like there are too many cooks in the kitchen.
Definitely.
And I believe you got to be able to like discern that and be like, you know what, I think this is strong for this reason. And this is kind of circling back to those soft skills. Like you need to be able to articulate why you think a certain thing is that way. But yeah, always be open to feedback and allowing others to like add their suggestions in because it actually might improve it, make it better.
Yeah, I agree. It's big to understand the audience. Say someone comes to you with, hey, Sulfa, man, I need a logo for my business. What information do you need from that client in order to make a good logo to them?
I'm so glad it's you asking that question because we actually had this experience very recently.
We did.
And I'm not going to go into details, but I'm going to kind of use this as a case example of what not to do.
Yeah, sorry. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to name
Yeah.
names or anything like that, but like I had this example where I had a client who right off the bat, I said to them, this is how I work. I need this from you. So we have set expectations. Like, here's my guidelines. This is how I work. Because for the record, and I want to go on record here, graphic designers are not mind readers. Like people think that
Or any
we
creative.
are, or any creative
Yeah.
for that matter. We're not. That's not our job. Our job is to help you realize your vision.
Yep.
But we can't completely figure it out all for you. And so it's a collaborative process when you work with a client and a designer or
Very
creative.
much.
You've got to be able to, like, as a creative, pull the information out of their head. Like, what colors do you like? What are brands that you like that is kind of similar to what you're hoping your end result going to look like? And so, like, off the bat, I kind of like said that with the client, and they were like, oh, we don't really care. Like, just do what you do kind of thing. And I was like, all right, cool. So I cooked up some stuff, came up with some variations. I thought they were pretty cool. I've sent it to you. You gave me some good feedback. And then they just didn't like it, and they weren't very clear. And I was like, well, this is why I said you gotta help me out here. Like, what do you like? And how can we work together better? And then it just kind of kept going back and forth. And then eventually I was just like, this ain't gonna work. You guys don't have good creative direction. Let's just end it here. I didn't get paid for the job, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, that's not how we do things here.
What do you think could have made that better?
I think me being really firm at the beginning,
Yep.
like, this is how we do things.
But how could they have communicated to you better also? Like, what do you think was missing with what they were asking?
Sometimes it's as clear as a creative brief. Like, if I didn't verbalize that well enough, maybe I could have just sent them like a Word document that was like, here's what I need
This
from you.
is what I need, right? Because you've
before I do
made
this job.
thousands of logos, right? And
Yeah.
they have never gone through that process.
Yes.
So for them, it's hard to even. They're like, man, why can't you just make what I'm fucking
Yeah.
telling you to make?
Yeah.
But they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Exactly.
They've
They
never been
don't.
through that
They
process
don't.
before.
I'm remembering the shoot as well, and I'm just
Yeah.
thinking like, this is going to be a nightmare. We were talking about last week. We were like, trust your gut, and it's like after the first couple of rounds, you would have been like, something's off. Like this is not going to go anywhere. This is just going to be an ongoing thing. I can feel it. I can feel it. Like that it's always better just to trust your gut. So you ended it, but
I ended it because
Yeah.
I trusted my gut
Yeah,
at that
that's
point
good.
after
Yeah.
enough times of not listening to it.
yeah,
But that's just an example of what not to do.
Yep.
But what you would do is right off the bat, and I think it's good advice for a freelancer or a creative in general, is like, know your rates, know how much it's going to cost and what you're going to produce for the person, and be clear with them right off the bat.
Yeah, man, because
This is how we
that's
do
hard. It
things.
could end up, one job could last a day, but one could last a week if you're going back and forth and you're not meeting the expectations that they're trying to.
Set boundaries with those clients.
Yeah.
Like
Have you guys ever seen that meme? It's like a sign. It's like a menu, a designer menu.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
I
like-
love that
You
one.
know the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about, where it's
You
like
you design everything. We sit there and watch
Yeah,
$12,000 or whatever,
exactly.
and it goes up. Yeah,
exactly that shit happens.
Yeah.
man. And like that's why like if you have an hourly rate or you have a set figure for what it's going to cost to do like a logo or a brand package and like an itemized list, all those things are really good to have rather than figuring it out as you go. Like when I was young and I was still learning this stuff as a young freelancer, I used to like not really know my worth and my value, and I'd say stuff like, "Oh, what's your budget?" Nowadays, I'm just like, "This is how much it costs."
Yep.
It's good though to like know those rates for yourself, because you will have clients that say will work better with like an hourly rate if you're doing a heap of editing, or they that they're going to have a heap of revisions
Yeah.
versus like just doing a day rate or like a project rate,
For sure.
because you know that this client, they're going to be happy with everything I deliver. They're not going to say, "Oh, can we change this or this or this?" So it's like you might have to be a bit flexible and change your rates and whatever. And it's good for many creatives to have both, like a day rate, an hourly rate, a job rate, that sort of thing. Like just know your worth as a creative as well, because at the end of the day, like we can't do this for free all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a creative, I was talking about this the other day. You get upset when it doesn't feel fair.
Yeah,
Do you
there has
know
to,
what I mean?
yeah,
So,
good
like,
exchange.
Yeah, you have this initial conversation, and it's like, for this price, I'll do this. And at the time, it seems fair because you, in your mind, think this is all I have to do. And then they ask for 20
The
revisions,
revisions,
and he
yeah.
drags on and on. And then in your mind, I'm like, this is no longer fair for what you're paying me. How do you make a brand understand the worth of a logo? Because I've had
question.
experiences with
Yeah.
people like, man, this is easy. Like, just make me a brand. Like, just make me a logo,
just make me a
bro.
logo, man.
Like, this ain't
Yeah.
good. And in their mind, they think it's going to cost them like $50. It's like, I can just get someone on Fiverr to do this for fucking.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's actual worth in a logo. Like, this is how people are going to identify you as.
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, man. Like it's the first point of contact for a lot of people is how's your brand represented online? Like some people don't have that shit figured out at all. And that
Well, they don't understand
confuses
how
me.
big of a deal it is.
Yeah. I found out recently, unrelated, but like a breathwork instructor who wanted to work with me at one of my workshops. And I was like, so where's your website? Where's your social media? Didn't exist.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, how am I supposed to know what kind of person you're like and what your brand is like and who you are and how I can work with you
Yeah.
if you don't have any kind of presence? And the same kind of goes with business. Like no one's going to know about your business unless you can get all that stuff figured out. And that can be subtle or it can be complex, but it matters. It matters how you're perceived online in a business sense. Like whatever your brand or your company is, you need to be able to have that because, I mean, how is anyone going to know that you exist if you don't have that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, as you say, it's your first point of contact, and once you have that brand recognition, like everyone knows Nike or Under Armour, so they see that logo and that's
Right.
their logo.
There's
like
an affiliation to it, right? And that's a really great point too. Like we know these brands and we know the recognition of the brands and we know like the identity of the brand too.
Yeah. We
I
know
find
what
that
they stand for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love the psychology behind brands. It's just it fascinates me, and I think it's super important. Like that's what I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at is like how you're portrayed online and what's the ethos of your brand. Like what does it stand for and what does it represent? And that's what I love helping people with is like helping them get to like the nuts and bolts of that.
It's so true. Because if you didn't believe in what Under Armour stood for, you're not wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
But the only reason you think you know what they stand for is because of their marketing and all of their. There's no other way. You don't know personally anyone that works there.
Yeah.
The only reason you know Under Armour is because of what you've seen online or on TV.
For sure.
And because of what they've shown you, you've got a feeling towards that brand and you're happy to wear it. Because
For
you're like, yeah, I
sure,
stand
man.
what these guys do.
Yeah.
But that's because of what they've fed you
Right?
with content.
100%. Yeah. Just like Nike.
Yep.
Just like their campaigns and their branding, just like any other gym chain out there and how they portray themselves. Like there's a lot of time and money gets invested behind brands and how to, put that message out there.
Yeah.
I interviewed for Under Armour once in Alexandria, and I've always loved what they represent and the culture, and the logo itself is cool, but it's like, all the ambassadors and how they like put themselves out there on their social media presence and what they stand for. I just love it, man. Like I would want to rep that. I like the culture behind it. And I think that's important. Like a logo can represent so many things. It can on one hand like look a certain way, but it can also have a subtle messaging that expresses all of these things that we've just touched on.
Is there anything you do to like spark your creativity or to switch off because you're always like working? You're always trying to work that creative part of your brain, like
online, man. Like online. Like if I think like say for example, if I've got to work on the client's design, like, and I think about these references to other brands, like having a look at what's out there and like thinking about the landscape of where their brand fits in with the rest of that. Pinterest, Behance, like Dribble. There's all these different like websites you can go onto, even just Google Images sometimes. Yeah. Like to come up with inspiration and ideas. But it's like circling back to like being a chef, like how do you take all the different ingredients and put them together? Yeah. It's so many layers to it, man. It's not just the logo mark. It's like.
What are your favorite logos?
One of my favorite logos.
Yeah.
Under Armour is one of my favorite brands. I wear it all the time. So I'd say Under Armour. I like a lot of gym logos.
Fitness related.
Fitness is like my thing. So today.
Do you think that going back to like people have a lack of purpose or direction, say, do you think that social media has impacted a little bit on that?
I think social media can be a cause of a lot of mental health.
Because you love social media, but this is where we disagree a lot.
Yeah.
If I didn't need social media, I wouldn't have it. Yes. I would delete everything and I'd just be a ghost. Yeah. But I can see your point of view, but I would be interested to understand your views on it.
I get it. I totally get it. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media as well. But I have friends who don't have that either. Yep. And they don't even think of it in a negative light. Yep. But I get it. There are factors to social media. There's a lot of negativity out there or judgment. But man, it is a double-edged sword. It's like, how do you treat social media? Yeah. Like it doesn't have to just be some business thing. It can also be a way that you authentically express yourself on social media. Being a creative and being a photographer and a videographer and sharing what you love, that's a way to be genuine on social media. Like you can have at least this is how I'm trying to approach it, is having an ethical approach to social media. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know it's like in the news recently, they're trying to change the age limit. So you have to be, I think, 16 in Australia. They're trying to change it.
I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
In the US, they're banning phones in classrooms.
Yeah, which is good.
It's just super good, man, because there are there are things that can affect your mental health on social media. Yeah, bullying and all that stuff. Like
comparison.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it is this full-on double-edged sword because on one hand you can find other people and connect with other people like we have. Yep. Or you can also get caught down the rabbit hole and
the doom scroll.
The doom scrolling and like I've been there before too. The podcasting, love my podcast. I don't even listen to them that much these days. Yeah. Because I used to get stuck intellectualizing everything that I was learning rather than applying what I was learning. Right. Yep. Like there's that saying that knowledge alone's not power. Knowledge applied is power. Yep. You got to actually learn, like you got to apply what you learn. Otherwise, it's just waste. It's just information. And I guess I'm in a different stage of my life now where it's like I've learned so much. Now I've got to actually apply what I learn. Otherwise, it's just I'm doing myself a disservice kind of thing.
So true.
Yeah.
So true, bro. When I was in my early 20s, I read so much. I was reading so many books and I was walking around like I was the shit.
Yeah, I thought
you think you know everything.
Yeah, I thought I knew everything
done
too, man.
nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Did nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so social media, it's great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good. It's I guess
love
it's
it.
like any tool, right? So
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
our tools are mainly laptops, that sort of thing. That's how we create our vision.
Yeah.
It's just like anything. It's a tool. I know one of my friends, Harry. He has an app that locks his phone and won't let him scroll on social media
Yeah.
for certain times.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah.
Where
That we need apps for that.
Yes.
Right? There's an app called OneSec that like it's similar where it locks it when you open an app, it'll come up with like a thing, like a 5-second timer where it forces you to take a breather.
Yep.
You just inhale in for like 5 seconds and exhale out for 5.
Yep.
And then it asks you, do you actually want to go on this app right now?
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Rather than like automatic doom scrolling,
Yep.
getting a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Like think about it for a
Because
second.
that's the thing. Like these devices and social media itself are so addictive.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you suggest to people like to get your dopamine in other ways or to dopamine detox from that? Like,
Yeah, I like dopamine detoxes, man. Sometimes I have a whole weekend where I'm just like,
no.
fuck my phone.
Yep.
But I'm guilty of it just as anyone else, man. Like sometimes it can be a vice, a distraction. But I think knowing that
Yeah.
and then getting out
Having
of
that
that
self-awareness.
is important.
Yep.
And also just reminding yourself that social media is a highlight reel for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's not real life.
And it's not real life. And I think it's okay to not overshare everything as well. Like we go through things in life, but you don't need to always put it out there on social media.
Yeah, like Dave Grohl
Yeah.
sharing with the world that he had an affair
Yeah.
and he's got another kid with some girl.
Yeah.
I was like, no one knew that. No one needed to know that. Like, why are you sharing? Like, it wasn't in anything.
sure.
Like, it
Yeah.
didn't need to be shared.
Yeah, but I'm referring to those people who will like pull out a phone and like, I'm crying, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
When does that become
You see that all the time.
inauthentic?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's not
like,
genuine.
It's not
You had
genuine.
to set up the tripod.
Yeah.
You had to edit the video.
Yeah.
And then just before you hit post, you're like, yeah, no, this is still a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So,
Yeah. So some things deserve to be private on social media.
yeah.
But I get it. Like I get it. It's a very interesting dynamic with social media these days. But as a creative, I think it's so important to like hone your craft and share your craft
Yeah.
and be proud of your work as well. Like, it's all kind of like tied into like that self-belief piece earlier. Like we gotta know our worth and our value, and we also gotta build our confidence to be able to express that to others as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because at the end of the day, why are we doing this? Like we're doing this for others. We do this kind of work so that we can help others and they can help others and create an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think same as everything. Everything is beneficial as long as you use it responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that, even healthy, the gym and health food can be really, really good for you.
Yeah.
You use it the wrong
Everything
way,
in moderation.
bad for you.
Yeah.
For sure.
There are people that are addicted
Too much
to
training.
health foods and they get health issues, right?
For sure, man.
Same as the gym.
Women,
I've seen people
Deca.
get addicted to
Yeah.
the gym and you're like, this is bad. Like this person's here way too much. And you can tell there's something going on.
Yeah, man.
Everything's bad if you don't use it the right way.
In
Same
excess.
as social
For
media.
sure, man. For sure. Like social media, junk food, you can only eat so much of it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
some maladaptive things in the fitness
Yeah, man.
industry. I've seen influencers who are like,
Synthol.
You're definitely on something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's not natural.
Yeah.
And like it's just, I
Rich
think
piano.
it's good to just bring awareness to that and like not get caught up in.
You got to
too
be
much.
aware of it. I just
Yeah.
don't like this is bad, this is good. Like social media is not bad.
Yeah, I don't think a little screen time here and there is bad,
Mm.
but like those iPad babies who just get left to their own devices and their parents don't actually parent them.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that at
Yeah.
all. But yeah, man, I think it's all about discernment at the end of the day. There's good, there's bad, there's nuance in between.
Oh, yeah,
There's-
definitely.
There's statistics and facts out there that show how bad social media can be for us, but it's also a really great way to connect
Oh, yeah.
with people.
Yeah.
So we got to
100%.
look at it from all kinds of angles.
And to also like find out who you are. I like,
yeah,
you were talking about like,
Yeah, it's fine.
you're like, people can be judgmental
yeah,
and all that type of thing, right? People compare.
Yep.
yeah,
I feel like social media, because it's on a massive scale, just highlights who you really are.
yes,
Like if social media weren't around, you would still be a judgmental person.
Right.
You just go do it somewhere else.
That's true.
Because it's on a big scale. And then it's like you need to be self-aware enough to be like, maybe I am a judgmental person, and that's something that I need to
Right,
work on.
right. Yeah.
But then people bash and say it's because of social media that I do this, or that we compare. It's like, no, maybe that's just who we are as a society.
And it
And it's something-
amplifies it.
It amplifies it because it's on a
who
bigger
you are.
scale.
I've seen it too,
You were
man.
still that
Yeah.
person before social media came around.
Yeah.
If anything, if we're self-aware enough, it's like, hey man, maybe we should get better at this, because this can be beneficial if we weren't so judgmental.
For sure.
And if it went away tomorrow, you'd still be judgmental. You'd just be doing it to people on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, man. And I think it's like, it's not always easy, but like trying to see the good in others online.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
instead of casting judgment straight away, like we don't really
Yes.
know the full story of a
And
person.
that's you doing work on your own.
Exactly, man. So I think
It's not social media's responsibility to do that. It's your own.
I love how this went from a
I'm just
what are we talking
saying,
about,
I couldn't help
creativity to
myself.
like
Oh,
let's
no,
get
it's
down
fine.
the rabbit hole.
Well,
But
it's just holding up a mirror, right?
man.
Like,
For
sure. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that too, man. Because I've faced that within myself as well, man. Like,
we all do.
how do I show up on social media more ethically and genuinely without having fear of others judge me,
Yep.
and then having my own self judgment, and then like kind of circling back to like somebody said this to me once, and it really stuck. It was like the only opinion of others you should really care for. Because I do believe, like, I'm not a big fan of that saying, like, you shouldn't care what other people think. I think you should care because it's a good estimate of, like, how you are around other people. But also, she was saying to me that the opinion of, like, the people that you respect and you want to be more like,
Yeah.
their opinion matters more.
Yes.
And if it's people that are just, like, you know, in the comments spewing hatred and they don't have a track record of getting out there and doing what you want to do,
Why would you listen to
why
them?
would you listen to them?
Yeah.
They are just trolls. They don't know shit. They're
just trying to bring you
they're
down
not
to
in
their
the
level.
arena. They're not
Yeah.
standing beside you. And I think for me personally, I want others to win just as much as I want to win. I want to get around other people who are getting after it as well and helping them.
That's
Like-
what we're like all the time. We
Yeah.
want to celebrate everyone's win. When we don't get jealous, we're just like, fuck yeah, he's
Yeah.
killing it.
He's
Like,
doing it, yeah.
she's smashing it. Like, we want to celebrate wins here.
Yeah.
Like, that's the community we want to try and build.
So hopefully, like, social media can get to that point, or maybe something comes along that's better than Instagram that encourages that kind of behavior more, where we actually like treat other people how we want to be treated online, and you know, try and filter out the negativity. I don't know if we'll ever get there as a human race, but
Probably
like
not.
it'd be cool.
Yeah, but it
if-
starts small. Like you start building those communities.
Yeah.
I hear people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm not getting." Similar to what you're saying, it's like, oh, fuck, no one comments on my videos or on my content, and I'm like, how many comments have you fucking given out today?
right.
And it's like none.
That's a good like
Right? If
yeah.
you're not doing it, it starts with you. If
Yeah.
you start doing it, the next guy starts doing it.
I think the phrase that comes to mind for me when you say that is that you get out what you put in.
True.
Like you're going to get back more positivity if that's what you're putting out there.
So true.
And if you're coming from a genuine place, and it ends up becoming a feedback loop, man.
Just to touch on it quickly, because I know I'm aware of time.
Yeah.
What do you think drives, say, like a virality more? Because my friend Adrian, he is more into hate will push a reel more than, say, positivity. Do you think that's true or false? Like, what do you think drives more social media virality? Like when you see like someone falling down, hurting themselves or something, or like, because I mean, whoever, I can't remember the name, the Instagram CEO manager or something, not Zuck, the other dude with the glasses and the chains,
Tim Cook or whatever. No, that's
what's his
that's
name? Adrian, I think it's Adrian something, or anyway. He's such a gaslighter, like talking about all the Instagram changes and updates, and he's saying, no, it hasn't changed. And I'm just like, bro, he's just like gaslighting creators. Anyway,
Yeah.
But do you think that hate pushes stuff more, or is it like positivity? What do you think?
This is getting juicy, man.
Yeah.
In
In your opinion, I'm not, like, no pressure. There's no hate. No, it's all love.
it's so hard to answer this question like directly because I'm coming at it from a few different angles.
Yep.
I think that social media is very skewed in the sense that there are marketing companies and
Yeah.
and agencies behind it if you want to get in conspiracy land, but I do believe that there's a lot of influence on like how the algorithm works.
Yep.
Either for or against us.
Yep.
You hear of stuff like this in like voting and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
oh, did you guys vote as well Saturday?
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
I've got to go.
I did this morning. Yeah,
but look, I don't think that it's an even playing field on social media. I think there are companies and investments that have way more control than we think.
Yep.
Or that we know.
I agree.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I think when you think about hate, I'm trying to think of it from the lens of like, you know, big issues that are happening in the world. Hatred is only going to continue to create more division. And I don't know if like, I don't know, man. I used to be an optimist.
Yeah.
But I have a bit more realistic points of views now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's always going to be a slog for humans to always just get along. Like, we're not going to reach a utopian world. I don't think that's possible. Maybe later, like as humanity evolves. This is getting into some really deep chats here, man.
I guess I'm just trying to say that emotion will push.
Yeah, it's true.
anything,
Even
so
negative.
focus on
Did you follow Lane Norton?
I think so. Yeah.
I do. He did a post this morning,
Oh, really?
right? And he was
Didn't
talking
see it.
about this exact same thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he always
Great minds think alike.
shits on like people like using fear-based tactics to push whatever their nutrition agenda is.
Okay.
Right. And he's like, you guys all talk about not wanting to have any of this fear-based content or negative content out there. He's like, but the stats speak for themselves. Whenever someone talks shit, there's shares and comments.
Yeah.
Like it blows up
Yeah.
whenever someone talks about negativity. And he calls everyone out. He's like, you guys all say you don't want it, but as soon as someone posts something negative, it gets the most shares, the most views, the most comments. And it's like, you guys are obviously addicted to stress and sharing this kind of content.
We're not supposed to be having this much access to information.
Yeah.
Like, humans didn't have this. We lived in an era
It's not
where
even
we
access
didn't
to
have this.
information, man.
But
it's not even access to information, because this is what's happened. I could pull my phone out and say the dumbest shit,
Yes.
but say it like I know it,
Yeah.
and people will share it. I could
And
say,
believe it
man, fucking,
instantly.
if you ate cheese all day,
Yeah.
you're gonna lose weight because that's what happened to. I can say that,
Yeah.
and it allows me to post it.
Yes.
And some idiot. All it takes is one idiot to believe me.
Yeah.
And share it and be like, hey man, did you know that fucking cheese? This guy lost 10
I
kilos
don't-
because he ate cheese all day. And then he just gets shared and shared and shared. So it's
Maybe
not
in
even
America.
an access to information.
Yeah.
It's just an access to bullshit.
Having a platform. It's
Yeah, everyone can have a
The barrier
platform.
to entry is lower.
And you
than
don't
it's
need
ever
to be
been, yeah.
qualified. You can say whatever you want.
But someone will come along and fact check you. though.
Yeah.
So
There will
there
be
is
someone,
that.
But not really, man. This Lane guy, that he's lived his whole thing is trying to call these people out. It's not stopping those people from making millions of dollars, having millions of followers,
True.
creating a whole career off of bullshit. When you have the masses will talk. If I get enough people believing in my shit,
Yeah.
the 5 or 10 that are trying to prove me wrong aren't going to do anything.
Okay, so here's an angle. So, like, there are cultural phenomenons out there that occur that get viral. Hawk Tour girl, for
Yeah.
example.
Our girl.
Sometimes that's the shit that unites people.
Can't wait to
right?
hear her first episode
Sometimes
of the podcast.
there's just shit like that happens.
Yep.
This is the social media marketplace.
Mm.
It happens. There's going to be the good, and there's going to be the bad. And it's what wolf do you feed?
Yeah.
What are you gonna invest your time and energy on?
Yeah.
Because like fucking, I don't want to be a hater. I know that's just probably going to come back to me if I keep doing that. So yeah, I think it's kind of like it. Kind of in a way, it is what it is, but it's how do you navigate it?
But
and how do you
it depends. Like,
interact
I think
with it.
Hawk Tour girl, some people are out there having fun and they get they have their viral moments.
Yeah.
She's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fucking go for it. That's
Yeah.
mad. Like, she had a moment, it went viral. I would be like, I'm all for it. I'm
Yeah.
like, hell yeah, we should want her to win.
Yeah.
But I think because we work in gyms, you've worked in gyms, we're all in
Yeah.
the fitness industry. There are people that genuinely don't know what to do with food and diet. Like, this is health advice. You
Yes.
shouldn't be able to give health advice
No.
on a platform for free and have it go out to people. And that's where like the negative shit like needs to get called out. If you're just doing a dance and it goes viral, who cares? You're not hurting anyone. You're having fun.
Yes.
But when it comes to people's health, like big decisions, you can say whatever the fuck you want, unqualified. and it gets shared, and people making careers, writing books about it.
It's unprecedented times, man.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't really seen the full evolution of technology and social media and how we interact
definitely.
with each other yet. There's probably something else that's going to come along that's different. Like I've heard Joe Rogan joke about this as well. Like eventually there's going to be something that Neuralink or something that where we can read each other's minds, and then shit like that can't really get out there so much. You can't be prescribing incorrect information because we're so connected that shit doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah.
We can't be giving each other that kind of advice anymore. We can't be spewing that kind of hatred anymore. And like this is me at least. Like I like to, and it's not always easy, but like treat other people like they were you living a different life.
Yeah.
Not fucking easy.
Walk in their shoes.
But like, how do we get to a point as humanity where we actually treat other people with mutual respect and kindness?
You just got to realize that everyone's going through shit. Everyone has been through shit.
That's it.
And don't take people at face value.
Yeah.
Because I know heaps of people who have killed themselves, and it's like they've been the happiest people.
For sure, man.
And then all of a sudden,
Robin Williams, we had no idea that he was dealing with shit.
Yeah.
Or maybe we did, and you guys have heard me say that in my workshops too. That everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Definitely.
Like,
yeah.
I'm no different. Like I have my challenges in life as well, just like everybody else in this room. And like, how can we get to that place on social media?
Yeah,
and
that's the tough thing.
As people, as just in general. I think what we tolerate and what we resonate with on social media has changed.
Yeah.
And I've seen this, at least in my own experience, working in the fitness industry and seeing the marketing side of things and what is real and what's not. There's so much talk about like authenticity on social media these days.
Yeah.
There's so much more awareness around mental health on social media these days. I think it's always going to be a shifting landscape where we just become a bit more in tune, empathetic and understanding of what's out there, and hopefully more aware of what we put out there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good place to leave it on.
Yep.
We've covered so much, and then towards the end there, we just got really into it. It was awesome.
D&Ms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Chris.
Thanks, bro. I thought we were going to keep this light and hearted and like
So
joke
did I,
about
mate.
it.
Hey,
Shit
sometimes
today.
it just happens, you
don't
know.
know
You
where it's
fucking
gonna go.
deep.
Yeah. No, that was really good. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Yeah.
Thanks for
Great to have
sharing
you on.
everything.
Yeah.
That you. Yeah.
Grateful.
Good. You came with some good stories there, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. I feel like if I didn't know you, I would have. Even knowing you, I learned a lot about you.
Thanks.
And there's a lot that people can take away.
Yeah,
Likewise, both
I
of
think
you
the
guys.
main
Yeah.
takeaway is you're proactive and you're going out. So if anyone's starting out, be proactive, reach out to people, network, apply to those jobs.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, put yourself out there and figure out what you're good at.
Yep.
And really like give it your all.
Yeah.
Like we
Go
got
after it.
We got this one life. Get after it. Like fucking
Mm.
don't be stuck in a shit kicker job that you don't like. I've been there and I hated it, and I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. Like, go after it, figure it out, figure yourself out, and then get out there and try to be of service and try to build your thing.
Yeah.
Super important.
You didn't settle, which a lot of people do, and you got yourself
people
around the
settle.
right people.
Yeah.
I didn't settle because I was fucking miserable. I hated it, and I needed to do something.
But a lot of
about it.
people do, and they just stay, man.
Yeah. So
Like, you've got to actually just not be afraid to give it a crack.
that's it. Yeah.
Easy.
Thank you, my bro.
Thank you.
Yeah,
bro.
you're a legend.
Yeah, likewise, man. I appreciate this
Solid
chat.
episode.
Like,
Yeah, that was decent. That
Yeah.
was decent. Yeah. I loved how deep we got. I thought it was sick.
yeah.
Yeah, you got right in.
I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it to go there at all, man. I
Nah,
thought
that
we
was
were just
good.
sticking
Thank
to
you, bro.
questions, but yeah.